Alrighty, so deployment. Deployment's cool. Deployment's how you get your website from typing localhost every time to typing the URL. And everyone can go to it and play with your website. It's great. So basically up to this point, even Capbook was entirely running on localhost, and we weren't really trying to think too hard on how to get it to work when we actually make it official. So started last night because MIT students always do everything last minute. We tried to deploy it, actually yesterday at 1 a.m., and we learned something really valuable. That Facebook authentication is actually really bad for Heroku in particular. And the reason being is that if you put a Heroku link, I don't know why, but for some people, for me, if you add a Heroku link in your redirect URIs, it flags it as malware and won't allow you to publish your app. So, there's a solution. We're now going to Google authentication. So, that is our fix.
Got him.
The best note is that the fix to go to Google is about 5 lines of code different, and there's barely any changes you have to make. But the downside is that we have to go to Google and we cannot stay on Facebook. But first, before that, let's just go over our deploy website and just play with it for a little bit. So, if everyone goes to go.6148.io/capbook, hopefully they should be able to log in and then post something here. And ideally, we will just be able to, this is ideally what a deployed website will look like. It's going to be some URL, it's going to end with .herokuapp.com, and after that then, so this is what a deployed website will look like, and this is ideally what your guys' website will look like at the end. Is basically, we'll all be able to use Google authentication, log in, and post a story. And maybe Facebook authentication will work for some of you, but it wasn't working for me. So I'm going to go over Google authentication. So, first things, go.6148.io/capbook-github, clone the repository, and type git checkout advanced. Again, this code is actually going to have basically all the solutions there because I don't think there's that much point in you guys copy-pasting me, except one important thing that I'm going to tell you guys that you will have to write on your own, and that is related to another point that I will talk about later. So, people give me a thumbs up after they're at the point. Wait for about another minute. Alright, so I'm just going to go on. Is everyone all good? Anyone just want to call out if they need another minute? Alright, we're set. So basically, you should have the full Capbook website, and the advanced repo has all the socket stuff already set up. And it has something else that's really important set up as well, which I will cover. So, this is the first step. This is a meme you guys might have known. This is at this point now super old. I remember this from when I was in middle school. You have a lot of private information on your basically server right now. You have your client ID. You have your client secret. You have your connection to your MongoLab database. In that MongoLab database, there's a username, there's a password. You're revealing all of this information to everybody. So you need some way of securing that only for your own computer and not something that's just on GitHub for anybody to see. So that's going to be the first step, is making sure that credentials stay local to your machine and are not public. So I'm going to introduce you guys to something called a .m file. Basically, this is just a file that will exist that you will have to create, and I will basically just show you my .n file. This is an example of a .n file, and let me just show you what mine looks like. So if you go to .env right here, so basically this is my cat book workshop. I don't know why I have node modules opened up, but basically it looks like everything normal. It has the source, all is great, but it has a .gitignore, and it also has a .env. .gitignore existed before, and now there's a .env file. So if you guys want to follow along, I recommend creating a .env file and have these fields in it, because I made it so when you pull from GitHub, you won't have a .env file included in it. And that's done on purpose, so you guys can't take my credentials. If you got this right now is not important, so you can put like to be done later, like TBD right here. Like we don't have a Google Client ID and a Google Client Secret right now, so just put like TBD there, and you can worry about that in a second. But basically, this is where you put your MongoLab URL, so if you guys want to plug that in on your own servers, just like grab a MongoLab URL and put it there. Okay? So I'll just leave this up for a little bit more, but basically it's pretty simple. You just put like mlab_URL equals, and then in single quotes what you want to be put there. And this is on a separate file on your own computer locally. So the next question that comes up is, a little bit slow, but it's fine. So this is what a .env file should look like, and let's go next. So how do you use it? So let's just see how you use it. So if you go to, go to all of these. If you guys go to db.js, I'll do it with you right now. Let's go to, so I'll move this over here, and if we go to db.js, you will see that there's something here that's different than it was before. Instead of just putting the MongoLab URL, I now just say process.m.mlab_URL. That's something that is specific to Node or Express, I'm not sure which one. And basically it's just a magic tool for it knows to access your specific .env file. So that's what you do in db.js. It's already implemented for you guys, so you don't have to worry about that. If you go to passport.js, you'll see that there's now this Google Client ID, Google Client Secret. And now if you go to app.js, there's one for the port number. So now you guys might mention something that is true. If you go to our .env file, port is not something that exists here. It is undefined. And this is a standard code that is in most like example projects that you will see, is almost everybody for their port number will have something that looks like this. And the reason for this is for deployment. And it's because basically our .env file has nothing under port. So it is undefined. So basically this is just a JavaScript hack that it will see process.env.port is undefined on our computer, so it will just default to using 3000. That's what that line of code does. And the reason why you have this there is when you deploy on something like Heroku, Heroku supplies its own environment variables just automatically. So Heroku will give something special in the .env file, which will specify a custom port for you to run at. So basically, this means that when you upload to any place online, it will be supplying a custom port for you to run at, and so it will choose this over 3000. That's just what that line of code does. It's a bit of hacky JavaScript. But don't get too confused. So we went over that, and I think I will go over one more thing now. So if you guys remember when you pulled this, you did not get a .env file. That is for a reason I just want to go over a little bit again. If you go to the .gitignore, I added .env at the end over here. So basically that means that whenever I push something and whenever I pull something, it will never grab the .env file. And the reason we want to do that again is so others don't see our credentials. And you have to supply them yourself. let's go to console.developers.google.com. So now we're going to be kind of repeating the process we did for Facebook. And I realized after doing it on Google, it is way faster. So that is ideal. So I'm going to go here along with you guys. So if I go to console.developers.google.com, I already have some things over here, but you guys should be able to create a, it's nice, doesn't render on certain browsers, or certain sizes, but there should be an option to create a project. So I think at the beginning, when you guys go there for the first time, you have to accept some like terms of use or something like that. Just say yes or whatever, just get past it. And there is going to be an option to create a project. So I will create one, be like Aaron will be its name, and I'm going to create this project. Cool. So that's what I have right now. And now the first step is to enable logins. So you do that with a certain API that Google has. So you click on Enable APIs and search for Google+. Okay, great. So we're at Google+. Right here, there will be the same slide that I have here. So you're going to click on Google+ API and click Enable. Alright, great. Enabled. So we've now enabled the ability to log in. So next step, it's even prompting us, unlike Facebook, that you need to create credentials. So after everyone is done with this step, I'm just going to leave it on this left screen a little bit so you guys know that you have to enable this. Then you want to click Create Credentials. By the way, can you guys raise your hand if you're following along with me? Okay, enough people.
Where do you get the enable APIs?
Enable APIs. It should just be, so if you click on Dashboard, at the top right here, there should be like an Enable APIs right up there.
I don't have that.
Does somebody nearby know it's up?
Here we go. I think I got it.
Okay, nice. So type Google Plus and click Enable under Google Plus. So let's create some credentials. So first you're going to click Oauth Client Id, and it prompts you. Before you can create an Oauth Client ID, you need to configure your consent screen. So here's what I want you to do is under Create Credentials, go to Oauth Client ID. Right there. So you should have this screen, and once you're at this screen, let's configure your consent screen. So at the consent screen, there isn't too much that you need to do. Basically, you need a name. So like, this is a great name. And then you need something called a privacy policy. Privacy policy is kind of dumb. It's just the way that these systems have it is that you need some link that it can go to for a privacy policy. So we made a sample one for you guys that you just can enter here. If you go to go.614.io/privacy, it'll just redirect you to a link on our website, and you want to copy and paste that right for the privacy policy, and I'll do that as well. So go.614.io/privacy. Will bring us to some privacy notice. I kind of copy and pasted this anywhere. Hopefully it doesn't say anything too stupid. And I paste it down here. I am done. So basically that's all we need in our consent screen. Is you need this privacy policy. Nice. Okay, you can scroll down. That's great. Alright, so after you have those two things, then click Save. And it says consent screen saved, and it brings us back to where we were before. So our consent screen is done. And if you go to web application, now you want to click web application. And two things are going to pop up here. Somewhat similar to Facebook. Basically, it's going to ask you to put in two things. So for here, you want to put in http://localhost:3000. And for here, you want to put http://localhost:3000/auth/google/callback. If you guys see now, before it used to be /auth/Facebook/callback. This time it's Google/callback because you're using Google. Pretty nice how all this stuff is relatively similar. Let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. So I'm just going to open up this slide. And this is what it should look like over here. Are people good? Raise your hand if you're following along with me. All right. So, basically, at this point, we've created a client ID. We have this set up, and we click create. And it's going to spit back to you the client ID and the client secret. So I take this client ID. It says it's been copied. Now we go to our .n file. Right here, you basically just want to copy and paste that right here. Client ID, paste it. Client secret, you want to copy that. Paste it. Awesome. So I basically now changed my Catbook app to be authenticating under a new Google Oauth. So that is the client ID, that is the client secret. You guys hopefully all have this. If you by accidentally exit out of that screen, you just can click Web Client 1 and it will spit both back at you right here. So I'm going to wait for another like 30 seconds for you guys to have your .n file updated. So as that is done, I will simultaneously, I already talked about hiding the .n files, your git ignore. And in the meantime, if you guys are still fiddling with it, this is fine. I'm just going to go over several other changes that I automatically did for you that just hooks everything together. So if you go to passport.js, you guys can see that there's now a Google Client ID. And the reason why this works is because we're no longer using passport-Facebook's library, but we're using something called Google Strategy. So it's basically another Passport library to make it work. But it's basically identical. What else? In app.js, our authentication routes now are /auth/Google and /auth/Google/callback. I copy and pasted this. As well, the last thing what we have to do is go to our nav bar. And when you click login, it should go to /auth/Google now instead of /auth/Facebook. So this has all been done for you guys. I'm just kind of reading through the changes I have to make. So at this point, you should all be configured. Your .n file should be set up. And let's see if it runs locally. Hopefully this will work. Make sure you npm install first if you have not. So click npm start. The server runs. I go to localhost 3000. And I log in. It's going to ask me to supply a Facebook account. And so now you guys might not see other people's posts, and the reason for that is because it makes sense, because you're all using your own Mongo Lab instances. So that is why you might not see all the posts that I see, is because all of you guys were connected to my MongoLab instance for here. Alright. Did people have success logging in through Google? Raise your hand if you have, or if you're still working on it. Alright, people are still working on it, so I will just wait a second. This is basically just a quick run through again in case people are catching up. You want to go to console.developers.google.com. You need to create a project. It will give you an option to enable an API. You're going to want to enable the Google Plus API. You're going to go to the Credentials tab, create OAuth credentials. You will be linked to an OAuth consent screen. Basically just fill in your own sample name and do this custom privacy policy that we provided for you. Now it will link you back to create credentials. You want to click web application and fill in these two things down here. And you want to put these two guys in your .env file that you will have to create on your own. This also isn't key that you guys exactly get this working right now. The goal is mostly that you can watch this lecture later and it will make sense to you when you're deploying, because you really don't have to deploy right now. But this is just going to be a good tutorial. So we're running out of time, so I'm just going to move on. Basically, we've now gotten Google authentication to work locally, and the one problem is that we still haven't made this public. We need to deploy this. So basically, in order to deploy it, all we have to do is first go to, now I'm just going to give you guys on your own time to do this because it'll take a little bit, but we'll go a few minutes over, apologize. Go to Heroku.com and make an account. And it might require you to confirm an email address or something like that. So I guess I'll have to do the same. So also, you guys, I did this automatically for you guys, but just a heads up in your own applications if you're doing this. In package.json, which is like the where it looks when you type like npm something. It was this start script right here. I'm no longer using NodeMon, which is something that we used before. NodeMon is really great for local development, but Heroku crashes if you try running with NodeMon. So that was something I discovered myself, is that basically if you are going to do something on Heroku, it needs to be Node right here.